So let's talk about Frith online. A couple months ago, I proposed the question on TikTok, can you build Frith online? And since then, I have received a ton of great responses, many of which opened my eyes to a lot of the nuance that I didn't really understand when I proposed that question. And when I proposed the question, I didn't give my opinion because I didn't want to muddy the waters a little bit. I wanted to get other people's unadulterated opinions. I still hold the position that you cannot build Frith as the heathen concept online. It just lacks the interpersonal connection of real life relationships, friendships, in that if I lose an account, if I get banned, if I delete my account, if I lose my phone and can't recover, whatever, a lot of those connections can just go away. Like if I stopped posting on everything, I think people might be a little curious as to what's going on, but I don't think there would be a grand investigation as to my whereabouts. Likewise, there's also a certain personal connection to real life interaction that cannot be duplicated online. You can cultivate, you can edit. A lot of the people that I regularly interact with online don't know my wife or my child. There are certain things you won't see from a person and you won't know them on a deeper level unless you have that in-person interaction. However, holding those interpersonal bonds with others online is extremely important to a lot of people, which is why I think we need a new term that obviously wasn't around during arch heathen times because they didn't have the internet. I think the new terminology should be web bonds, online bonds. You may even want to hyphenate web frith if you feel that term is something that is important to you, because we still can have deep interpersonal connections with people online. I've definitely made friends with several people and people I interact with over the years. Those are very important relationships to me. They just simply lack that in-person interaction. So no, I do not think you can build Frith online, but you can build web bonds. You can still have a community that you build online. And that can be very important to a lot of modern pagans and heathens, simply because you may not be in a spot where you can be openly pagan or where you will find other heathens. In places like Texas, for example, I am more apprehensive to engage with somebody that I see wearing a hammer because I think they're more likely to be white supremacist than back in California. There's also a lot more religious scrutiny here. I have heard some wild things come from Christians that I would never hear back in California. And because of that, I am more reluctant to mention my religion in casual conversation. So it is perfectly valid to have more of an online pagan presence, especially in an age and various regions where you are more likely to be persecuted for religious reasons. And that especially makes sense in an age and an area where you may not necessarily be able to be out and proud about your paganism, that you would seek more online relationships with other pagans, because there is that barrier of interaction where you can ban someone, block someone, delete an account, and not necessarily have to have your face and your personality and your legal name out there. That could jeopardize your livelihood or your interpersonal relationships, as we have seen in some areas, partly because a lot of law enforcement and people in places of systemic power are still very dominantly Christian. A lot of that satanic panic crap that we dealt with back in the 80s and 90s is still around. So in conclusion, I do not believe you can build Frith online, not Frith proper. However, you can have web bonds, you can have online bonds, and in some cases, it makes a lot more sense to hold those, or at least focus on those until you can have a group that you're more comfortable with. Because it can be difficult. When I see somebody wearing a hammer, I don't know if they're focused or if they're inclusive. So I hope that adds more nuance to the conversation. Feel free to keep it going if you disagree, if you have better opinions, if you want to add to it. It's only through good faith discussion that we can better grow the community and the culture of heathenry going forward.